Let the bass kick.
It's like one of my favorite things to eat, actually.
Really?
Because it's like very versatile,
Celery?
Yeah, you can like smack people with it. You can eat it. It's a versatile kind of.
I mean, when you get a whole bunch of the celery together, it kind of resembles a weapon or a blunt object that one might use to ruin somebody's day with. I don't know. I've seen crazy stuff happen in the grocery store.
I've never seen like
particularly
a movie where
in the produce section.
I've never seen a movie where somebody uses like celery as a weapon, but it's not beneath them.
I mean, I've seen people use crazy stuff. In Tennessee, I don't know. I moved to Tennessee from Arizona, and when I lived in Phoenix, people used to shoot at each other on the freeway. Mm-hmm. In Tennessee, people throw hammers and tools at each other across the freeway.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that in the papers multiple times. It's
no comment.
I don't know. Lots of people working with their hands in Nashville, Tennessee. And, when you feel rubbed a certain way, I guess you just grab whatever you can reach.
I need to reach out there.
I mean, awkward. Well, not awkward, but kind of interesting, random place to start the podcast. But, hey, guys, what up? Welcome back to The Last Cache. This is episode 15. I am Will. That is me. And this is my friend Marcus.
Pieces.
Over here.
Marcus still here.
And our special guest this evening is the young man himself, Harper Thompson. Harper, dude, you've been around for a while. Harper has been on the show before, but back when we were audio only and sounded like crap, and when we were not really having our stuff together, before the wonderful timing of Marcus entering our lives and making our podcast better. But for anybody that's local, everybody pretty much knows who Harper is. He's not a new face to anybody here in the area, but if you're tuning in from outside the Middle Tennessee region, to let you guys know a little bit about Harper, he is a member of Prodigy Disc, and you are on the tournament team, correct now, or is it the touring team? Okay, so he's a member of Team Prodigy Disc. He has been playing disc golf for quite some time. He's been a member of the PDGA since 2014, but we've seen him around much earlier than that. You have been playing since how old were you when you first started playing?
I mean, I pretty much first started throwing discs and frisbees when I was about 3 years old. Like my mom and my stepdad David really got me into the sport early on. And then I kind of just messed around with it a little bit. When I was younger, it was kind of just a pain just being a long walk in the park with my little legs just kind of getting tired. And then, just really started getting into it when I was about 9 years old.
Yeah. And I remember, and it's unfortunate, Jay's not feeling well tonight and, being cautious, so he stayed home. But Jay, everybody knows Jay, one of the hosts of the show, he used to coach you a little bit. You used to play a lot with Jay. I remember when I was just first starting to play disc golf, and I really started playing here in Nashville around 2013. So I used to see you guys out on the course before I knew who you were, your mom was, or who Jay was, and would see you guys out all the time. And I remember you were a little guy. And yeah, you had really long hair. Your hair was half as long as your whole body was. But you've been beating me, embarrassingly, as long as I've been playing disc golf. I remember, at first we were playing in divisions together where it was like, okay, we walk into it, and you know how deep intermediate always is. MA2 is always super deep, but it was like walking into it, all right, Harper's the guy to beat. and it's always just been that way, and not anymore because you've progressed in the game and now are playing in the MPO division most of the time, where I'm still having my thoughts of whether I should drop down to rec. But no, man, it's you have just always been the young phenom in the area. I remember the bag tag at Sanders Ferry years ago where you hit that ace.
Oh, man, I was going to bring it up. Wait, hold on. Sorry. That was my video. I was the one who shot that video.
Okay, well, tell them about it. Tell the folks about it.
we're out there, Shoestrick, the whole bunch, you're just having a great time. It's a beautiful day outside, and we're just wondering themselves, like, who is going to smack this basket? Who's going to do it? And everybody's throwing these discs left and right, left and right. And Harper, long hair, little small kid, runs up. And he does like 360s, and he's like impressing people with his throws, and nobody's thinking anything of it. And I'm recording everything. And when he did it, literally, it's the only time I pulled the camera away. He does this like amazing throw, and everybody's watching, and it's up in the air, and it goes smash. I'm like, no, the only one I didn't catch all the way. But I think I was that was when the eyeglasses came out. We know that meme with the eyeglasses came out.
Yeah.
And I made that for his video, and it was amazing, dude. I think he maybe got like 1,000+ likes in like the first day or something. It was crazy. So
I remember the pictures because I was standing nearby, and Will Shoestrick was standing very close to where you were standing. And you come charging down the hill and full 360, long hair whipping through the wind, launch this thing out. I think the basket was probably like 360, 370 out, and you
easily.
just pegged it. And immediately Alan Posey turns around and yells at everybody. He's like, everyone who just saw that owes him $5. And there was a picture of you standing there with this giant grin on your face with just $5 bills falling out of your hands. Yeah, man. And of course, now you're in this incredibly transitionary period of your life where you're at that point now where the decisions you make and the way that you go with certain things, it starts to shape the way your future looks. So you're experiencing all these new things, and you're being exposed to all these new activities and interests and people and all that stuff. So I know that this year we've seen a little bit less of you, but you've still been making trips to a lot of the big tournaments and stuff. You have played, since 2014, you have played 85 PDGA events. And that is a pretty solid statistic for somebody of your age and of your experience. But
exactly.
You obviously, I mean, and now you have been playing for at least a couple years in the MPO field. So you definitely seem very comfortable there. How has this year been? Because you just turned 16 this year, right? So you're driving now, and you've got yourself a girlfriend, and my little boy's growing up. So what's life like for you now? Are you playing other sports? Are you kind of getting into other things like that, or what's lighting you up these days?
Well, I mean, I started playing like my first MPO tournaments on a consistent basis last year. But last year I still played the amateur championships at Bowling Green and the junior world championships in Emporia, Kansas. So it was really just kind of the ideal mix for me of, playing amateur at some of the biggest amateur tournaments there is, and then playing MPO at anything local, B tiers and C tiers. And then this year I'm all the way made the full transition to MPO. So I didn't play any amateur tournaments this year, and at this point I'm not eligible for amateur tournaments. But as far as how everything has changed, I think one thing that comes to mind is just kind of my expectations have really changed in the past year and a half or so. Before it was just coming into amateur tournaments and kind of expecting to win or maybe not necessarily win, but just be in contention. And just kind of, when I was younger, it was all about exceeding expectations and just kind of being that kid who has a lot of talent and is trying to refine his game. And, I was able to put up some hot scores sometimes, and sometimes I was not as cold. But now really with my game, I'm trying to be a more consistent, refined player, still, hold on to my talents and everything, but just really refine my game to the pro level. But it's kind of hard this year being a junior in high school. I mean, I've got homework and classes, and it's just a lot to take on. And as you said, with disc golf kind of taking a backseat, that's kind of happened this year a little bit.
What I would think of when I think about Harper, was the times we played at Crockett Park, and I was actually trying to show him like how to throw. And Jay was there, and his mom was there, And it's crazy how like I have all these great memories with great golfers, and sure enough, I got a 16-year-old right next to me that's like all of a sudden great.
Yeah.
It's almost like Jeremy Colling. You know how he always sees like an ace. Like I'm always seeing great golfers around me, and I'm super happy right now for this guy and his future. I guess. Do you think that that shot that you did at Sanders Ferry with Shoestrick around definitely got you into Prodigy?
Well, at that point, I was already. I'm trying to think when that was. I think that was actually a month before I got sponsored by them.
Yeah.
I was already kind of like.
I felt like I remember thinking that was what sealed the deal.
I think that
was
was
that
what
he
sealed
was
the deal.
standing right next to you. And
Yeah, I mean, I'd always.
Right.
I'd always been like I started throwing all Prodigy when I was honestly like super young, and they didn't really have a full lineup yet, and didn't have a ton of lightweight discs, and that's really all I could throw at that point. But I was into Prodigy super young. I mean, I've always been the biggest Will Shoestrick fan, and so yeah, I mean, I guess that could kind of be the thing that sealed the deal, because I think that was about a month before I got sponsored. They approached me at the amateur championships at Bowling Green in 2015, and just kind of all started from there. I've been with Prodigy since.
Now, how many teams does Prodigy have?
Well, at first I kind of entered at the protege level, which is their junior team. I know back then it was pretty much just the protege team and the pro level. I don't think they even called it the tournament team at the time. It was just the team. And now at this point they have we have a street team, which is like for ambassadors and tournament directors and all that. And then the tournament team, which is what I'm on now, and then the protege team as well.
Nice.
this is something that you touched on just a little bit, as far as playing in the amateur championships and the junior world championships. Is that something that I know that you've always been a person, as long as I've known you, that you've always been somebody that's wanting to take things to the next level, and you are very much about moving forward and setting new goals and stuff like that. So are you? I mean, you still have 2 more years of eligibility to play in like junior world championships and stuff like that. And I know it's always interesting to me to hear the decision making that goes into, or the thought process that goes into deciding when to leave those events behind. You know what I mean? Is that something that you're giving thought to?
Well, I mean, honestly, the biggest consideration, as you're talking about with like junior worlds, it was honestly cash. Just knowing that, I mean, this year I'd say I've kind of a little bit disappointed myself, which is kind of to be expected. My first year playing all MPO events, and I still think I've made over $1,000 this year, and just, yes, I want to win a world championship. Like, that would feel great at the junior level even. But I just figured to be more financially viable, some of these tournaments can get kind of pricey. And so if I'm able to just play MPO even at local tournaments, or even, let's say I go to a bigger tournament, scrape for last cash, then, hopefully that's better. And I was happy with my last performance at last year's Worlds, and so that kind of left me with some closure, leaving the amateur ranks, really getting into pro.
It's always been interesting to me, you see a lot of people that are now fixtures on the tour, they started their visible career by winning one of those big events like an amateur world championship, or winning multiple world championships and in the juniors field or whatever. But, you're at this point now where, because you see, like, there's those people, and there's also like an Eric Oakley that never played in an amateur event. You know what I mean? In a sanctioned tournament, he never played in the amateur divisions. He just went straight to pro. So it's always been interesting to me, because you see like so many great young athletes that win these consecutive world championships at the junior worlds, and then the teenage years happen, they go on to school, they find other interests, and some of them kind of come and go. And you made that kind of leap. You kicked the door into the pro field when you were still very young, and you started playing in those divisions. And I feel like a lot of that, just from being around you, was because of the fact that you were competing at that level where you were playing. And it's always been interesting to me also to see somebody that does the amazing things that I have seen you be capable of, and then I know you've been chasing a junior world championship or an amateur world championship or any of those big titles, and it seems like you have this certain ones you perform really, really well and you're in the running, and then or you'll have one round where you break out, you're just tearing through people. Do you feel like does it have any, what do you feel like your performances at those big events has been attributed to? Like, is it courses? Is it conditions? Is it, because you played a lot of events. I can't imagine that you're only like geared toward one type of course.
Right.
How do you feel about where you've kind of fallen?
Well, something that comes to mind is at last year's Worlds, there's 2 rounds that really kind of set the tone for how I finished. So after the first day last year, I shot like 2 940 rounds, really disappointed, just not sitting where I wanted to be, and I was like maybe in 20th place, and that's just me as a competitor. That's not where I want to be. And then third round, we were at the country club in Emporia, and we played the same layout that MPO plays every year. And that course, it fits pretty well to my style of game. I mean, I can throw a decent distance, and
That's 400 plus.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Decent for me is 400 plus.
And there's Tide OB out there, but it was a little bit of a windy day. But I remember just thinking, my back's against the wall. Now's my chance to gain strokes on some of those maybe less experienced players or people who don't quite have the distance at a junior event out at country club. And so I ended up shooting a great round. I jumped 20 spots up to lead card. And then the final round also comes to mind. I was, I believe, tied for third place. And basically, you had to get the top 4 to make the finals. And that has always been a goal of mine at the World Championships. And up to that point, I had never done it. And basically, spots 3 through 5 were in contention to make the finals. So out of us 3 in 3rd through 5th place, I just had to get top 2 of those. And so really I put the pressure on myself at that point. And I ended up shooting like one of the higher rated rounds of my life, but what I consider the best round of my life. Just really having that pressure to, this is your last round at your last World Championships. You either make the finals or not. And I think putting that pressure on myself on the biggest stage really helped me to play well. And even after a rough start, I just focused up and realized, look, this is my last chance. Give it all you got.
Another really fascinating thought there is because you see so many people that thrive on pressure and that thrive in that clutch moment, and they depend on that pressure to really be performing at their peak. And then other people, it's better if they don't look at their score. They don't look at the leaderboard. They don't, it's just, you really, I mean, just by looking at the widely unique personalities we have within the sport and like finding what makes people tick. And you see some of these outlying competitors, and you've always been an outlier in our local community because you're so young and you perform at such a high level. And I can see you being somebody that would create more pressure for yourself, like to have that mindset of shaping the way your brain is interacting with the situation in order to kind of fine tune your focus.
See, I like the conversation about pressure because as I was trying to advance my skills in disc golf, I recorded myself. Being on video is one of the simplest ways to add pressure to yourself to do and perform better. And which makes me think of when you were on video yourselves. Like, how did that feel when you had the cameras on you and you had the pressure? Like, did the cameras add more pressure, or did you enjoy that?
I think it added more pressure, but I'm someone who, as a competitor, I really like pressure. I think it just helps me focus more than anything. And when I know a lot of people I'll hear say they play their best when they're like not really thinking about things, but I'm kind of the other way around. Is like, if I'm really focused on every single aspect of the game, I feel like that's when I'm playing the best, and focus on these really sharp lines and exactly where I want to put the disc. I feel like that's when I'm playing best.
It's really talking about, too, we touched on the transitionary period that your life is in, but, for people like me, I know, Marcus, you've been playing for quite some time, but I found the game late in life after investing myself in my younger years in a bunch of contact sports and more physically strenuous sports and getting injuries and all that stuff, and then finding myself later in life without any kind of an athletic or competitive pursuit and without that kind of fraternal relationship structure that you build by being with people, with your peers in that kind of a competitive setting. And, you know, among people like myself, it's always that interesting, you know, there's always a lamenting of the fact that we didn't find disc golf earlier in life. Now our bodies are breaking down and we've finally found this thing that we're passionate about, and we're just seeing our ceiling getting lower and lower because of the limits to what our bodies are able to do. And we're always kind of envious of young players like you that found the game so early in life. But I can imagine that you've got to be existing on the opposite end of that spectrum, where you've been aware of the game and focusing on getting better at it for so long since you were at such an early age that now your body is changing at such a rapid rate. You've put on 2 feet in height in the last 2 years, you know. So has that been weird? Like as you're getting taller, as your limbs are getting longer, you know, has that been like a factor in how your game has progressed? Have you found that be like in any way kind of hard to deal with, or?
Honestly, I'm grateful for it for the most part, because some days I'll go out and I'm like, I played this course a month ago and I know I didn't throw this far. Like, I think it just has to do with, you know, just growing and whatnot. But I mean, I'm so glad I was introduced to the sport so early on. Just, I mean, even if I do have to adjust here or there for, you know, whatever is going on, I mean, I think it's for the better as I progress.
Yeah. I'm just wondering, like, I could see, like, remembering certain instances and moments during my formative stages where I realized how drastically my body was changing, and it was just like it's been happening for quite some time now, but the moment you realize it. And so I was imagining a spot where, like, all of a sudden it just seems like your angles are different because you're so much taller than you were, and you just now realize it. But I mean, again, you've been aware of it for so long and been actively pursuing a better form and better mechanics for so many years that it's probably just, I mean, I don't know. I just was thinking about it, how it would be weird to be so young and then all of a sudden you went from 3 feet tall to 6 feet tall.
Well, I think the weirdest part about it is honestly my disc selection. Like, there was just a point where
all of a sudden you're turning stuff over.
Well, yeah, and I used to throw lightweight plastic religiously. Like, I remember I loved the Air D1. Like, that was the reason, like, for, you know, as small as I was, like, I was able to, you know, put a good move on the disc. And then at one point I was like, I can't throw lightweight anymore. Like, this just isn't working. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is, like, throwing flippy stuff, throwing air plastic, stuff like that. That was probably the biggest change more than anything.
And then getting stronger and realizing you didn't know your own strength.
I'm going to throw another variable in there.
Yeah.
I think that it's the course. You know, his home course is Crockett Park.
That's where I learned to play.
So here's the thing. Like, if you're growing up and you're getting taller and longer and you're playing a good course, I think your game is going to advance more than whether if you're playing a technical course, you know, because your limbs are getting longer, you can throw further, but why would you need that if you're on a technical course, you know? But when you're playing a big course like Crockett, where it offers like multiple tee pads and holes that range from 300 feet to 900 feet, then as you grow, your length and your, you know, body is going to adapt more to a course that has a little more distance to it. So I think that, you know, one of the more advantages that you have is having a home course like Crockett as opposed to a home course like Seven Oaks, where, you know, Seven Oaks is a little more technical. You can take a couple mid-ranges out and a fairway driver and have a great time, where at Crockett you'd have to bring your RD1.
And that's a great point, dude, because I know for me, I learned to play at Crockett Park. And one thing you can definitely say about that place is, more than any other course that has multiple tee pads, that place is like 2 different courses. You play it from one set of tee pads or another set of tee pads, or you alternate. It's a totally different course. Most courses that have multiple sets of tee pads, it's, you know, you got a short course and a long course, but they're basically the same. And it's always been a great place to practice and learn because there's usually not that many people, out there. And you can just empty your bag, throw multiple shots, take your time. You're not holding anybody up. Yeah, I mean, I know that when I got to play a lot, I would always just go out there and throw those shots. Because I think that's something interesting, too, is for beginners, I think it's hard to really learn the physics of the flight of a disc if you don't get an opportunity to see the full flight of the disc. Mm-hmm. If you're throwing with a million trees 100 feet off the tee pad,
you're not worried about the flight. You're worried about like not hitting a tree.
Right, and then you never get that understanding of how the disc actually responds to your body's mechanics and the conditions that are in play.
Chopping the mic.
Boom.
But yeah, I'm super happy to have this guy here today. Watching all these disc golfers grow up and skills getting better. Everybody is not necessarily on my skill set anymore. Everyone's better than me now. I've got to do something different. I can't wait to Masters.
Yeah, here we come. Masters divisions, here we come. But yeah, you've had a lot of other stuff going on. So what other things are kind of lighting your fire these days? Like, have you found any other new hobbies or sports or anything that have really kind of like struck your interest? Are you?
Well, I mean, since August, since school started, I mean, it's basically school and disc golf.
Yeah.
And it's just school takes up so much of my time, and you know, I want to dedicate all the time in the world to disc golf because that's I'm so passionate about it. But at the end of the day, school right now is the priority, and I still practice disc golf when I can. But it's basically those two dictating my life right now.
Awesome. Is there anyone at your school other than you that plays disc golf?
Yeah, my friend Devin Prasad, he actually he played the MCO and he goes to my school. He's in my grade and everything, and he really just kind of all of a sudden started playing, and he got pretty good pretty fast. Like he's a really solid player, good putter, and yeah, he seems really passionate about the sport. He's playing the Rutherford anniversary coming up.
How many strokes did you beat him by?
Well, we didn't play the same courses. He played like Two Rivers and Cane Ridge Short, but we play Crockett sometimes, and I'll give him some pointers and whatever, and I've given him a few discs. But yeah, it's good to play with him and have someone my age that I can just go to Crockett and play with.
That's huge, man. I mean, your potential impact to the world at large in terms of exposure or exposing new people to disc golf is huge, especially for younger people, because I know, like, we went out, and this has been years ago now, and you were still much smaller at this point, but we went out to Boxwell Reservation, and you helped us with that round robin event that the scouts had out there, and those kids just latched onto you, and a lot of those kids were a year or 2 years older than you, but seeing somebody that was on their level, like, performing at this activity at such a high level, you were grabbing junior discs and throwing them 370 feet. It was something to watch. But it was, you know, I feel like having I'll leave it at just saying that you're playing a vital role in the growth of the sport. I think being in your age bracket and being so prolific and
so do you think disc golf should be taught at schools, or should it be an activity?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. I think I've really only experienced anything at school like at an older age. And at some point, I know at my school, I was kind of somewhat known to some as like the disc golf kid.
Okay.
You know, it's kind of known.
To say that.
Yeah, it's kind of known around the school. I never really had a great idea of who knew and who didn't. But I know in middle school, our school actually bought like 4 baskets and set up like a little course around the school. And at some point in middle school and high school, kids are going to have their opinions and doubts on a, you know, kind of side, you know, not as big sport as disc golf. So I think it's a little touchier of a subject there. But like elementary schools, I think that's great to get like, because they're not going to have any preconceived notions on disc golf or anything. And you know, you can get to middle and high school and they're a little bit judgmental, but, you know, I think it's great to introduce some younger kids to the sport.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I was in 8th grade and freshman year, we had a kid in our class who actually wrestled with like a professional wrestling promotion. And he was just this big kid, and he had just gotten into it at a young age. So like he was a professional wrestler. He was getting paid to do it in middle and high school. And everybody, it was almost like this weird, where it was like kind of like a novelty, like, oh yeah, that's the wrestler kid. But at the same time, all the people that were just super crazy about wrestling were like, oh my God, dude, he's a professional wrestler. So it was this weird thing. But
Yeah,
disc golf is still such a niche sport. I can't imagine. I mean, I know even when I was like 18, 19 and people would ask me if I wanted to go play disc golf, I'd be like, that sounds stupid. So, I mean, I can't imagine what my reaction would have been at 14, you know?
Yeah, I went to a baseball, football school. There definitely was no room for disc golf at all. And I just wonder now, like, if it was actually around, because I'm beating a dead horse here. I grew up in Knoxville. My grandmother right across the street from Morningside Park. So literally Shoestrick was playing disc golf right across the street from me, maybe for years, and never knew anything about it until I came to Nashville, and then learned about Seven Oaks and learned about disc golf. And somebody said, oh, you know about the course in Knoxville, Morningside? I'm like, no, but my grandmother lives like right across the street. And sure enough, go to my grandmother's house, and I stand on the front porch, and I look across the street, and I can see like hole 15 or something, like right dead smack in front of me. I'm like, wow, it's been in front of me my whole life.
Well, I think it's honestly gotten better the past like year or two. I've noticed like social media pages like Sports Center and Bleacher Report like are posting disc golf, and like you can really see it out there actually now. And like I think it's become like even kids my age are like much more aware of the sport, and maybe they don't know the legitimacy of it, but they're much more aware that it's an actual thing that people play.
Yeah, and that momentum is picking up this year with CBS Sports picking up the Dynamic Disc Open, and then all of us, of course, we have the Final 9 of the Pro Tour, I think, on ESPN2 coming up on November 24th, I believe is the date of the broadcast. But yeah, and I think the growth has really ebbed and really kind of blasted off over the last 5 years. And then all of a sudden this year, COVID-19 happens, and everybody was kind of like tentatively pumping their brakes and like, what is this going to end up looking like? And I think at the very beginning, like in February, March, a lot of us were really, really concerned about the progress we've made over the last 5 years being potentially undone by the effects to society of COVID-19. And it couldn't have had a more opposite effect. I mean, disc golf has just become it's the new craze, just because it was one of the few things that you could do outside and not, and not be at risk. So now all that growth we experienced in those 5 years has doubled, and we've got to find a way to keep up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how is Prodigy handling the whole thing? Are you involved in it? Have you had any conversations? Has it been difficult for them to keep up with orders? I know Dynamic Disc is like having a hard time keeping the warehouse stocked.
Well, I mean, the last time I was in the warehouse was back in January, so before COVID-19 hit. But I know, like, if you go on their website, that it has a little banner at the top saying, like, due to COVID-19, your orders may be delayed or anything. So I'd assume, they're experiencing some growth. I mean, I feel like pretty much every manufacturer has noticed substantial growth this year.
Yeah, and there were several that kind of chose to close down their factories, like right in March. I think MVP kind of, for a moment, stopped production at their factory. So, and the small regional outfitters and retailers, I think, were kind of the barometer for the whole state of the industry, because everybody expected them to go belly up first. Mm-hmm. Sure. You have a smaller market, you have a smaller base, and so, and then of course the PDGA suspended sanctioning, so a lot of those regional and local retailers subsist off of running events. That's how their business stays afloat. And so that impacted it. But there seemed to be a lot of people that their local governments actually were allowing them within the terms of that community to have events if you did it in a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
But the PDGA was, I mean, for obvious reasons, being very, very strict about what criteria you had to meet in order to get your sanctioning back. So I think all these local and regional retailers had like close to a month of slowed sales and movement, and then all of a sudden everything just rocketed off. People are just constantly Googling what can you do outside.
Yeah, sure.
And so, I mean, it's been a record year of growth for Music City Disc Golf. I can say that with confidence because we came back in June and started hosting organized events again, and we've signed up 10, 15 new club members every event. It's been crazy.
Speaking of events, was we had Bag Tag yesterday?
Yeah, we had the club championship this past weekend.
Yeah.
AMs on Saturday, pros on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting. I mean, we always have our championship at Shelby Golf Course, and they're still closed down for the tornado damage that they suffered.
Oh yeah, that's
and
huge.
So since we couldn't use the golf course, I mean, typically when we're there, you have to only allow 100 players because shorter days, and if there's frost on the ground in the morning, you get a frost delay because you can't send people out on a golf course while the ground's frosted. So since we couldn't use the golf course, we thought, well, let's just go to Cedar Hill and, hey, let's split it up into 2 days so we can get more members into the event. And lo and behold, the same amount of people still signed up. So we could have had it all on one day, but we ended up with a couple short days, which it was light work. It was easy to handle. I still would have rather had that on the same day, I think. And particularly because of certain unforeseen circumstances, like the fact that everything was normal on Saturday and on Sunday we had 40-mile-an-hour wind. So
yeah.
How was that, Harper? Marcus playing in that?
I'll let Harper go first.
I mean, okay, so Cedar Hill is... Well, it was weird we were playing the short layout. I practiced for MCO like a solid 5 rounds and then 3 rounds during the MCO. So it was interesting to see Cedar Hill in such a different layout than I'm used to. But luckily we are like blocked a little bit by the trees, but I mean it was still like pretty gusty winds. Like we got down to hole 7 and 8 right by Dickerson Pike, and it was gusting, like 30-mile-an-hour winds. Some of the scores that you would typically see on that short of a layout just weren't happening. The hot was a 12 down and the second best score was a 7 down. So that really shows. And it was 21 holes, like a short layout, 21 holes, and the second best score was a 7 and the best was a 12.
Yeah, and then of course we had, because we split it up into 2 days with kind of late notice, and there were other things going on, everybody wanted to play on a different day because they had something going on. So the whole reason we changed format was to be more accommodating. And then we agreed to let some people play, and then the conditions were just so drastically different. So there was a 9 down in calm conditions, and then a Sunday was just a totally different animal. So
yeah, I had one of those putts where you put the old 10-footer and it goes over the top of the basket and floats away about 25 feet.
Yep.
Yeah, that was me. Hole 8, 7 down? It was actually hole 7. Yeah. Yeah, I made the comeback putt because Logan was on my card, and I was like, man, I better not mess up anymore with Logan on my card. I want to still be friends with him. I don't want him to look at me like, oh man, this guy sucks. But yeah, shout out to Kevin for shooting a 12 down.
Yeah, it's been awesome to see Kevin Rarick out here playing again. I mean, this year he's been at a bunch of events and he's been doing really well. I mean, he's had a couple hiccups, but he's been out of the game for quite some time. It's always awesome to see somebody come back like that.
He got strong into biking.
Yeah.
And he said that they shut down the entire biking, season due to COVID. And I had no idea how close these guys like get to each other, like doing a mountain bike. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but yeah, I'm sorry that they lost him, but I'm glad to have him back in the disc golf community because he's a great golfer, and he's one of the only people I've seen that would put a roller down on hole 8.
Yeah.
And
well, in that kind of wind,
roller hole 8 and park the long position. Like I kid you not, this guy he's got some skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's highly experienced.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, it's been crazy. A bunch of people have been coming out again.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 30th anniversary of the Seven Oaks Summer Solstice this year. We had H.B. Clark and Barry Gill and David Eiler playing against each other. That was pretty cool.
I'd like to see HB and Harper on the same card. The old and the new.
Oh, man. I feel like I would need to do commentary on that round. I think that would be highly entertaining. Speaking of commentary, Harper, one of the things that you are definitely known for in our community, at least by me, is you've been doing quite a bit of media stuff for the last couple of years, and you've had, I mean, obviously this year at MCO, you did coverage of an MP40 card and a juniors card, and the year, I remember 2018, you were playing the Music City Open in the MA1 division, and you would go put up 1,000 rated plus rounds and come back and pick up a camera and go do catch cam for Central Coast Disc Golf at Ravenwood. And you did that all 3 days and knocked it out of the park. James Conrad almost killed you at one point with his AVR. But, you know, so what is, I mean, outside of, what are your kind of goals or ambitions with the media stuff? Are you still passionate about the round coverage? Is that still a medium that you're kind of trying to chase down? Have you thought about doing any other kind of media like vlogs or podcasts or anything like that?
I mean, pretty much anything disc golf media is on the horizon for me, and tournament coverage. I felt I was pretty pleased with how the coverage came out for MCO for the junior divisions. Of course, there's always improvements to make, but yeah, I want to do a better job this year of getting more like discs reviews or, you know, like filming my casual rounds. Didn't really get around to it, but I mean, video is something I'm pretty passionate about, and, you know, being able to incorporate it with disc golf, I think is great.
Yeah. Well, the one thing, and I've gotten into this a little bit on several podcasts and in different conversations, but the one thing that seems to kind of be lacking for disc golf, like at least for round coverage these days, is the audio quality of the commentary. And when you really think about it, it makes sense, because a lot of these people that are really putting all their effort into video, you know, they've got all these fancy cameras they've got to buy and all that stuff just to be able to get out on the round and get a viable product. But a lot of them don't have access to audio equipment or have any kind of audio editing experience or whatever. But I figured I would use the opportunity of having you here on the podcast to just go ahead and extend the offer that if you ever want to utilize the studio to do commentary on any of your round coverage and stuff, that's definitely something that we can work out.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty big part, and like something that I love that Jomez does is it sounds great. Like that's something that's noticeable when you watch Jomez and then you go watch you know, whatever else, Gatekeeper. I mean, they have great footage, or GK Pro or whoever it is, but Jomez really stands out with really with everything.
Yeah.
But their audio quality is.
And there's a lot of new media companies popping up and doing round coverage at bigger events and stuff like that, because now there's just so many big events. And so there's less media companies to go around. But that's one thing that I really think is a very clear difference between the top of the barrel and the bottom of the barrel is when you put on a video from an event that you're interested to watch and see what happened, and it sounds like two guys talking to each other through tin cans on a string. It's kind of like, it feels like, why go to all the effort of such a polished video product if the audio that's accompanying it, because you're just going to watch it and mute it. You know what I mean? And then you don't get to hear the coarse sounds and volume and the chatter and stuff like that. So, and I told, Ben Howard, I told him the same thing. Like, that if he had a big event that he covered and he needed a good place to do audio. So anytime you ever want to do it, man, you're welcome to come over here. And if you can, whoever you get lined up to do commentary with you or for you or whatever, we can make those arrangements for sure.
That'd be great.
Yeah, and I'm always down to show you kind of what we're using and how we're running it, because since we've had a space where we could actually put some equipment and make some investments into the quality of the show, we've really kind of figured some stuff out. Having Marcus here to provide the space and learn, like, just being able for me to get back to like having a soundboard and microphones and stuff where, I mean, it's huge. It makes such a difference. But yeah, it's been interesting.
Got that right.
Doing commentary. Marcus has got his first taste of commentary for Music City Open this year.
I was initiated thanks to you guys, thanks to Ace Run Discs, Ace Run Productions. I'm a big fan. And all of a sudden, I want to do more commentary. So if anyone wants me to do commentary on their disc golf round, just let me know. Me and Will are available. Big and Rogers.
Big and Rogers. Sounds like we're going to start a country band. I will tell you this, man. I've gotten pretty comfortable with podcasting. Commentary is a much different animal.
Yeah.
I've done it once or twice. I've done it once with Harper. We did it once for some of your videos, and did it once with Jay before for a Music City Open, and it was terrible. And I feel like we did a decent job this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Ace Run, I watched the final round. I like the commentary.
Yeah.
You and Jay did a good job. Yeah.
Nice.
Have you seen the one me and Marcus did? The first round?
I just watched the final round.
Dude, me and Jay are okay.
Yeah.
Me and Marcus.
We had a ball.
I'll have to watch it, yeah.
We nailed it, dude.
We had a ball.
It took me and Jay like 60 takes. And me and Marcus were just kind of like, you want to just run through it one time just to kind of get comfy, and then we'll just knock it out? Yeah. And then it was like, we debated on the first dry run, like, are we going to delete this and do it again, or do we want to just keep that? Because it was pretty good.
It was pretty good. The first one was
pretty good.
We only did the second one. Was it first take, right?
Yeah, second one we did one take.
Let's go.
Well, I mean, it's different. Like, I did my own commentary for my last two videos, which I didn't love, but, I wanted to get it out next day, which I think is maybe the biggest factor for video coverage, is getting it turned around the next day or close to it.
And I'd like to say it is so hard to do commentary on an event that happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's like, okay, should I be
trying to remind yourself to be like present in the here and now and describe what as though it's happening right here in front of you.
Happened, right?
Yeah, it's weird. But it's also, in that respect, it's almost kind of like podcasting in that, yeah, we're just friends and we're sitting here having a conversation, but we're having a conversation that we're kind of curating or having on behalf of other people, that knowing that other people are gonna listen to it. So remembering that, it does flavor the conversation. It does kind of like steer it in a certain direction. And knowing that, I mean, man, props to, it's one of those many things that disc golfers get real whiny about on the internet is commentary. And, and I've seen the two like most noteworthy commentators in the game, Big Germ and Nate, like, they get ripped apart in comments on Facebook sometimes. And it's just like, what are you even talking about? I mean, and it's just, people are so hypercritical of that stuff. And so I think that is a big part of what makes it so hard, is you're sitting there like, God, I hope I don't sound like a dumbass. I hope I don't sound like I hope I'm not being annoying, like as annoying as I am on the podcast.
Yeah, and the whole time you're thinking, okay, so there's 10,000 people gonna be listening to me. Wow. I hope I didn't mess up that last word. Well, what am I thinking about next? Oh, is this actually happening in my brain right now?
So, you have a brand new baby brother, and we were actually supposed to have you on the podcast a few weeks ago, and you had to pull out because baby brother had a fever. And of course, fevers are a big red flag in this current day and age. Yep. So, what's it like? Obviously, you're already a big brother. You've had a baby sister for the last couple of years, but what's it like having the baby brother in the house? And obviously, I hope he's healthy and doing well.
Yeah, he's doing good now. But I mean, he just turned 1, and he's been walking around for the past month or two, and like, it's a lot easier now that he's a little bit mobile. He can kind of, be a little bit independent, and he's pretty chill. He just kind of, meanders around and kind of finds his own things to entertain himself with for the most part. But yeah, it's Kai was born almost 3 years ago, and that was a huge change because I was just an only child for 14 years, and then boom, we have now two toddlers around the house, and it's different, but I like it. I'm glad they're here.
Good. Yeah, big happy family. That's awesome, man. And that's going to be a relationship, that is going to be meaningful, and who knows where that's going to develop, because another young male and in Harper's family, I can't imagine he's going to be able to avoid disc golf for very
disc
long.
golf, no.
Yeah.
Kai too. Kai's going to
Oh
play disc
yeah,
golf.
she already have a fascination with it. She watches Big Brother.
She cried the other day. She grabbed a mini out of my bag. I was like, "Oh no, we gotta keep it here." And she was like, "No, I want the disc golf." Yeah.
Well, we'll have to get her a PDGA number and a mini basket and her own minis.
Yep.
That's the next order of business.
And a Prodigy sponsorship.
There you go. Yeah, start talking to Will.
Yeah.
I mean,
speaking of sponsorship, I want somebody to come out with like a disc golf shoe. Like this is basketball shoes. These are football cleats. Like I want somebody to come out with like, this is disc golf shoe sponsored by Prodigy, made by some place in China. Just something that's.
Did Latitude have one? I feel like.
Yeah, they did. They made a disc golf shoe, but there's been a couple trilogy initiatives to come up with a disc golf shoe that have been. I mean, it's hard to do with something that you can make marketable, because one, it's such a niche industry. So if you're a disc golf company that's trying to come out with a shoe, you can't just hope to be viable as a business if you're only selling to a certain percentage of the disc golf community. It's much easier for an established shoe manufacturer to come out with a line of shoes and kind of cross market them with disc golf.
Yeah, I kind of feel like kind of a similar approach to what Bushnell is doing with rangefinders.
Right.
Like I love to see that, and like
doing the feet instead of the yards
Yep.
and stuff, and Adidas is getting into it a little bit with the T-Rex line and stuff like that. But those are still, and honestly, if you were really going to, because any solid trail running shoe is probably going to be a decent disc golfing shoe. The differences are in manufacturing, because particularly on whatever foot you plant with, you're going to put that shoe through much more rigorous damage. So then the only thing that I could imagine or think of that a company could do to make a shoe more disc golf specific would be to reinforce one shoe more than the other and market them as righty and lefty shoes. But then can you imagine seeing somebody with this pair of shoes on the course, and it's like maybe to disc golfers that would look cool. I don't know, man. It would almost be like, you remember that movie, The Lady in the Water or whatever, the M. Night Shyamalan movie where there was the one dude in the apartment complex that only worked out one side of his body.
No.
So his right arm and his right leg were just super massive, ridiculous, enormous, and the other side of his body was super skinny and limp. I don't know.
Yeah, it makes me think of The Simpsons.
It seems like it would get gimmicky. I don't know.
Yeah, because I seen some guy recently, and his left shoe, he was right-handed, so his left shoe, as he pulled through his form, was starting to fall apart at the front. Just like talking, just like his left shoe was like talking up and down. I'm like, man, you just really need some disc golf shoes, bro.
Dr. Hoy's got that going on right now.
Yeah. And it's like the rubber piece should a rubber piece should go over the top left toe, you know, just to reinforce, because a lot of people drag their left foot around as they come around on their follow through.
Yeah.
And dragging that top part of your toe across the ground usually makes that shoe start to have its first words like a baby.
Yeah. Make the left shoe like a skateboarding shoe and the right shoe like a moon boot.
It's got to have a wheel on the back, by the heel, so you can rotate better, rotate easier.
Yeah. Reinforced heel.
Yeah.
Extra layer of rubber. As a newer player, Harper, watching how things are developing and seeing all these conversations about what the future of disc golf is going to hold, seeing conversations about redesigning the targets and seeing all this stuff, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think targets need to be smaller? Do you feel like the game is kind of progressing and evolving in an appropriate way, or is there something about the current state of things that you would like to see change?
As far as baskets go, I keep hearing the idea of, making baskets smaller, which I'm personally against for a couple of reasons. One, I feel like already there's enough disparity in putters. Like, you can distinctly pick out good putters from bad putters now. Like, even without smaller targets, you still have people setting themselves apart. Even in the circle, you see huge differences between your world class, your solid putters, and your not so great putters. So, and two, we already see enough spit outs in disc golf, and I feel like that's, from an outsider's perspective, that's probably one of the most confusing things to see. Is like, wait, so it hit the pole, went in, but then bounced out? That doesn't count? Like, that's just gonna be a bigger issue with smaller targets.
Yeah.
So as far as baskets, I don't think that should be changed. But one thing that I really would like to see change is the payout structure. I think I don't have the perspective of a tournament director or anything, but I feel like the PGA, its 40% mandate pays way too many people. Like, I feel like it should be closer. Now, I'm more radical in this idea. I feel like it should be 10, 15%. Like, I really think disc golf would benefit from really cropping out the best players and having them have a big payday. And, some people just aren't going to cash. I feel like that's how it should be, as opposed to 40th place getting, $20.
Yeah.
I just feel like it delegitimizes things a little bit. I feel like disc golf should be more prestigious at the pro level. The amateur is a different kind of talk, but for pros, I feel like you should be competing out there to win, to place top 3, etc., and really not try to get middle of the field and get, abysmal payments.
Are there different levels of pro? Because I always play around with the word
Super pro.
Super pro.
Yeah.
That's basically anybody that's 1025 or above, always in the top 10. They're coming there and they're gonna cash out. There's no possible way that they're not gonna be in the top. It's your Nikos. You got your of course, you got Chris. You're gonna have Paul. You're gonna have Ricky. You got all these golfers. And I literally call these golfers like super pros, because there's no way that they're gonna come to a course and not cash.
Right.
And for a golfer like me, who is considered a pro, who gets onto my home course during the MCO and gets destroyed by 1,000+ rated golfer, no matter who it was, and I just think to myself, like, man, I'm a pro, but I didn't cash, and I think I shot a decent round. What do you think about the differences between a 1030 pro and 1,000 rated pro?
As far as how it comes out to competing in tournaments or in their game?
Competing in tournaments.
I think with a 1030 player, you're going to have them there at 1030, you're expecting to win. Yep. Regardless of who's there. Mm-hmm. You can be playing against Paul McBeth, Ricky Wysocki. If you're 1030, you're going out there to win. At 1,000, if you're playing a Pro Tour or an Elite Series or anything like that, it's not the same expectation. You have at 1,000 rated, presumably you have the capabilities to shoot a 1050, a 1060, but it's just not reasonable or feasible to carry out for an entire tournament. So I think for someone who's in that 1,000 or high 900s range, they're going to be trying to get that cash that you're, kind of talking about, where you're not going to be competing really with Chris Dickerson, Ricky Wysocki or whatever. But they're still trying to fend for some money.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be honest, man. As a tournament director, I've always kind of disagreed with the way that the PDGA payout calculator kind of defaults. And I agree. I tend to agree that 40% is a little too deep. I would like to see it at least 30. Mm-hmm. I think 30 is much more reasonable. And I think as long as the money that's in the purses for these events is still so low, where our standards for added cash by necessity are still set where they are, it's impossible to pay out that many people that little money and not have somebody feeling like it's almost insulting.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
so I feel like, but then again, there you run into the deadlock of, okay, as this sport is obviously gaining more legitimacy, gaining more attention, gaining more participants, do we invest and make changes in limiting the size of the field, the percentage of the field that makes cash, or do we make investments and changes in getting bigger purses? So where it's like if you were paying out a 30 or 40% of the field, they're still making, last cash is making $1,000.
Well, I think even at 1,000 rated, as you brought up, I think even then you're not aiming for last cash. I don't think at 1,000 rated. I think you're still aiming for a top 10, a top 15 or whatever. But you're not aiming for last cash. And I think at this point, like, if you're aiming for top 10 or 15 and you get last cash, you're still falling well short of expectations. And I don't know really if they would be happier with that, getting last cash, or if they would be happier taking that risk of maybe getting top 15 and a bigger payout, or just kind of flopping and missing the cash line.
Well, tell me this. In the Music City Open, we had, I don't know what, 5 golfers. It was 1040 or above. 10 golfers is 1030 or above. 10 golfers is 1020 or above. 10 golfers 110 or above. 1010 or above. It was at least 10 golfers 1,000 above. When you think about it that way, is that why it seems sometimes that some golfers wait to the last second to sign up and they look and see what players have shown up or have already signed up at that tournament? Because, you see golfers all the time, like last second, like, oh, can I squeeze in? But that's after they saw how many people were in the tournament. So let's say if I'm Marcus Rogers, I'm a 10-20 ready golfer. I'm not, but let's just make a good joke about that and say that, I'm looking at this tournament coming up and it's the veterans and it's some kind of open tournament. It's amazing. And I see that Paul's there and I see Ricky's there. And I'm like, okay, I'm not going to play that, because my chances of getting in the top 10 with those two players being there are slim, so, okay, I'm going to choose to go to a different tournament. You think that's why some people do it that way? They always sign up at the last second. Is they're looking at the field that signed up at that tournament and they're weighing their odds?
I do think that is something that people do, that they wait until the last minute to try and make their decision on whether or not they're going to be at an event based on who else is at the event or isn't at the event. And I would advise against it because when you're talking about these bigger tournaments, or at least if you're talking about a tournament where it stands a chance of some of these top 10, top 20 touring players showing up, those are events that are on the rise for other reasons. You know what I mean? Those are events that are growing and that have a good reputation and that they are going to be getting bigger and bigger and bigger and eventually finding their own place on tour. And when you talk about these events that at least, like, especially the ones that are big now, but the bigger the event, the harder it's going to be for you to wait to the last minute, because that was a big thing that we had to break the bad news to a bunch of people about Music City Open this year. A bunch of people signed up when the registration opened at the beginning of the year when it was still scheduled to be a national tour event. Mm-hmm. And then nobody looked at their emails. Nobody looked at what was going on with the event. A lot of people didn't know that it wasn't a national tour event. A lot of people didn't know this and that. And then it's 3 days before the event, and you have somebody that's a household name within the disc golf world hitting you up and saying, oh, well, unfortunately, I'm going to have to pull out. And you're like, well, you're not getting your refund. You understand that, right? I guess let me refer you to the PDGA tour standards and rules of competition.
And going back to that, it's like, okay, so with the same, I guess, argument that I presented before, you sign up day of, as soon as registration opens, and it comes like that last week before, and you see, oh, yeah, I'm like one of the only top 10, 20 rated golfers. I should have a chance. And then all of a sudden you see, oh, yeah, Ricky just signed up. Oh, yeah, Paul just signed up. And, you just, you're literally seeing your chances go, oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, wow, And then they try to pull out. And they get disappointed because, just as you said, the rules say that you can't get your entire refund back when you sign up or you pull out so late right before the tournament starts.
I mean, to be perfectly clear, I don't think that a tournament staff should be beholden to you. Like, if you're a person that all of a sudden, like, your entire decision on whether or not you're going to play this event is based on who else is there or who isn't there. If you're that guy, and I'm the TD, I mean, I'm tiny violin. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not gonna. I mean, what I will do is protect the payout, because what I will admit to is I know that a lot of people are looking at how many people are playing in the division, so that they're able to project the payout and they know what they're playing for. And that to me is a much more meaningful criteria for judging your decision on whether or not you're going to play. I mean, honestly, man, as a TD, you're constantly bombarded with people that are looking for something to blame their poor play on. And it could be one of a million things that they're going to latch onto and create a big fracas about. But it's, when it comes to money, I'll protect that. I'll make sure that somebody can't scoot off with their entry fee and diminish the payout that you signed up for. I will do those things. But it's like, if you come to me the week before an event and we had open spots and we put a Garrett Gerthy in there, and now all of a sudden you're butthurt because you had to play against Garrett Gerthy, I'm going to look at you and be like, well, I mean, you could withdraw, but you're not getting your refund. I mean, that's going to basically be my response to that. I mean, I feel like you look, like, play where you feel, you know what I mean? Like, what is your goal with the sport? What is your goal with this event? Are you trying to become a better golfer, or are you trying to stay where you're at and make yourself feel better about it by only playing if certain people are there or not there? I mean, that's almost like the same argument between the new hole 18 at Cedar Hill. It's like, it's either a tough 4 or it's a soft 5. And would you rather have a tough 4 or a soft 5? Are you the golfer that would rather have a birdie handed to you, or are you the guy that would really have to work for that birdie? You like to earn that birdie. You know what I mean? Are you the type of person, are you built of the character to like earn your birdie and feel accomplished with it, or feel entitled to it? And that's really what it boils down to me, is like entitlement. Like, I don't know, I did this wrong, and so you got to make me feel better. And
like, if you need somebody else to play devil's advocate, just let me know. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I always find it interesting when people argue about par, because it's
like, oh goodness, thank you.
Oh,
yeah, because it's like a 3 is a 3, a 4 is a 4.
Thank you.
And none of it matters.
And don't get worked up about it. Like, I get the feeling of it if you're like, oh, I eagled this hole, but if there's 8 other eagles, is it really an eagle?
Right.
And it's just like, who cares? You played a great hole, or you played a bad hole.
Yeah.
And it's a stroke. It's not, oh, this is labeled a par as opposed to a bogey. I did so much better.
Yeah, and then with like hole 6 at Cedar Hill, I got the impression this year that the majority of pros on tour feel like if a hole is under a certain undefined distance,
come on,
then they should be guaranteed a 2.
A 2, yeah.
You think about hole 6 at Cedar Hill, every single person out there tried to throw over the top and disregarded the fact that these are cedar trees, and there's only a few spots where a disc can fall from up there to the ground without being deflected or redirected in some way. And it was like everybody said, oh, it needs to be redesigned, but it was like, maybe you just have to play a little smarter. Maybe you have to play golf on this hole. You know what I mean? But that's the definition of risk reward. It's like, yeah, there's a 2 right there, but there's a risk involved. Or you can play the safe, smart shot, the golf shot, and have very little work to do to get your par. You know what I mean? So I think that's, to me, 6 is a great hole for that reason in the long, is because, it's there.
You can get
if you feel like rolling the dice, but you could put yourself in a bad spot. Or you can just not break a sweat and keep it right in the middle and just play it right down to the basket and get your par.
Yeah.
So
mental game, right?
Yeah. I mean, to me, that's those things where it's like, I understand people are going to be upset about certain things when they have a bad time on a certain hole because of the way it's designed or whatever like that. But it's at a certain point, I also just kind of have to let it roll off of me
Woosah.
graciously. I don't know. Or attemptedly graciously. But yeah, so I know Harper, I know Prodigy isn't your only sponsor. Who else are you rocking with these days?
Right now, it's only Prodigy.
Is it really? I thought you had a couple others, like a Flight Factory or something like that.
Yeah, Flight Factory for a bit, and then really early on, Fossa Disc Golf kind of just sent me a bag. I don't know if it was even really a sponsorship, but it was just they sent me a bag, carried it around. But yeah, Prodigy is really the only sponsor right now.
Nice. Well, I feel like the sky is the limit for you, and I'm always excited to have you not only show up at our events and play them and stuff like that, but the fact that we are able to be friends and get together for a little conversation like this. Thank you for taking the time. I know it's a Monday and you're doing school stuff and you had to kind of drive a little bit across town, so I really appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah.
You got any tips for any new golfers out there? Just like not necessarily something that's
tip of the week.
The tip of the week, yeah. Something that's not necessarily like disc golf form related. It can be like showing up on time or eating a good breakfast or like doing your nails before you go play. Like what one tip that you gotta keep your nails done right. You can't have long nails trying to throw a disc. But give us like one tip that you would give like any new golfer or anybody per se.
I mean, something really simple that can really save you a lot of strokes is kind of predicting and being prepared for the conditions on the day that you're playing. Like, I know at the bag tag, my bag changed because it was super windy that day. Or if and this is going to sound simple, but if it's going to be really cold or really warm, like some people don't take that into consideration enough, and that is a huge effect on your game if your hands are cold or whatever, or if it's gonna be slick out there. Like I'm someone who I bring like 20 towels if it's at all wet. Like just being prepared for every situation is the best way to really save strokes without much effort at all.
Yeah,
that's a great tip.
Heard it here first. Yeah, because Logan had a like what is this a penguin mitt, like a big old.
Oh, he always wears those big mittens,
and
then
huge,
if it's cold enough, he'll have the big wraparound face mask thing that he puts on. Harper, if you were a crayon, what color would you be?
Ooh. Gosh.
I love how much that question puts people on a pedestal. It's like, oh wait, it's like you see the look on their face change. You're like, oh wait, this is an important question.
Yeah. Man, start like marking off the colors as we ask this question.
Scott Stokely, flesh.
I want it. This is gonna be a really, man. This is really. I'm thinking about this too much.
Life changing.
Yeah, this is a pivotal moment in my life. What crayon am I? I'm gonna say.
Saying you had to be a crayon for the rest of eternity.
This defines me from now on.
No take backsies.
I'm gonna say red, like a dark red.
Okay.
Okay, like a purpley red, or like just like a deep,
like a dark,
like blood red.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna say because
brutal.
Tiger Woods.
I think of it as like kind of like harsh, because like I think one of the stronger parts of my game is just me being competitive. Like basically in anything I do, I'm just a really big competitor, and I show up to win. I don't know. I associate that with red, and just being determined,
drawing first blood, the bloody aftermath, bathing in the blood of your enemies. I get it, man.
Sounds like my English class right now.
Oh, yeah? Were you guys reading something good?
Oh, we just read a bunch of stuff and make these crazy abstract connections that don't really make sense.
Okay, Freudian stuff, getting into the weirder, darker depths of humanity and the human soul and existence.
Favorite shoe brand?
I'm going to say Nike.
Okay.
Classic.
My disc golf shoe, most of my shoe collection. I guess I'm wearing Adidas right now, but
yeah,
I'd say most of my...
I don't see many disc golfers wearing Nikes.
Nope.
Yeah, pretty much everyone.
Dr. Hoy.
I had a pair of Terex last year, and the outsole, I don't think I had like one of the like more sturdy ones for disc golf.
Dude, mine fell apart immediately too.
2 weeks.
Yep.
And the sole.
The first
ripped
time
off.
they got wet, water went right through into my sock.
Mm-hmm.
They were supposed to be waterproof, and then the outsole just like started peeling.
Yeah, I wear Nike Wild Horses, and those work great.
Yeah. I am a big fan of a company called Oboes, and it was started by a guy that used to work for Keen and went off and started his own company. And for every pair sold, they plant a tree. You can find them at REI, OBOZ. Check them out. Not a sponsor of the show, but I believe in their product. If you would like to sponsor the show, Oboes, holler at me. The Last Cash
In the Sapphire Lounge.
podcast at gmail.com.
There you go.
Yeah.
That was
Pineapple on pizza, yay or nay?
Ooh, this is okay.
I'm either gonna love you or hate you.
Oh!
You're gonna go for. You could go from friend of the show to mortal enemy.
I'm gonna say it's okay.
Thank you.
I give it a pass.
Way to skirt around
Thank
the question,
you.
Harper. That's very
Thank you,
political of
and
you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you what happened.
I'm not staunchly against anyone having it on their pizza. I know some people are, and from what it sounds like, that's
you
your
go.
position,
There
Will.
you
I don't get down, man. I like pineapple
Anywhere.
and I like pizza, but they should never be in the same room.
I mean,
Or
I haven't had it in years.
Uh-huh.
if that room is my mouth, they should not be in the same room.
I just don't. I don't remember, and like, I would never go to a restaurant and order it.
I found this out about Will, and I ordered 2 pieces. One just plain or whatever, and the other one had half pineapple, and the other half was like, a regular style pizza. And I kid you not, he did not touch the pizza that had the half pineapple on
Dude,
it.
I will take it this far.
Anywhere on there.
Me and my
It's
wife
like,
will
no.
get pizza at the house, and I'll get something, and she'll get like the Hawaiian pizza or whatever.
Yeah.
And so like I'll tear through my pizza, and then when I'm pillaging her leftovers, if that's like the only thing that's like easy to grab out of the fridge, I will literally get a paper plate, like an extra paper plate, and pick the pineapple off of the pizza and put it onto this paper plate.
like my son.
Heat up the pizza, eat the pizza, and then eat the pineapple. Because I like pineapple. I just don't want it on the pizza, man. I don't
Right.
feel like that's illogical.
You're welcome, guys.
Sue me. No, don't sue me. Please don't sue me.
I know, right? All the pineapples out there like, yeah, I'm calling my lawyer.
Yeah. Shout out to Telly.
Pineapple.
Pineapple. Harper, thanks again, man. This has been
Oh,
fun.
That was very fun.
And we're going to wrap this up in time for your grandma to come pick you up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we'll do it again soon.
Absolutely.
What's the next thing for you on the radar this year? Just trying to take a break, get through the holidays,
Honestly,
get out of
a
2020.
lot of off-season work to my game. Usually, I would play more tournaments to finish out this year, but I think the Bag Tag Championship is going to be my last tournament, so I can really focus on my game because I feel like it's really close to where I want it to be right now, and I just need to fine-tune some things. So I don't want to go into a tournament where it's like freezing cold and I don't have quite everything figured out and be frustrated with another, poor performance. So I think I'm going to end my season a little earlier than I typically do and just kind of put in that work.
That's very wise, man. You are a stellar young man. I've always been impressed by you and just your mental fortitude, the way you carry yourself, the way you think about things. It's highly impressive, sir. And I look forward to greatness in your future. I think it's a given. I think it's definitely coming down the pipes. And trusting the process and making those wise decisions and taking some time to, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room because you're going through a lot of pretty clutch stuff with school and all that stuff at this time. So, man, whenever you do have a crazy new idea or whatever and you want to put it out on the airwaves, just holler at us.
Second question. Are you going to go to a disc golf college?
Well, I don't know the exact rules for collegiate disc golf, but I want to say I'm not eligible.
That's what I wondered. Yeah, okay.
I think there's a certain amount of cash you can accept, but like I wouldn't go to college to focus on disc golf. I'm going there to focus on my studies.
Do you have a field that you're kind of eyeing?
Probably engineering. Math has always been my strong suit, and that's something that my family has kind of always felt is.
That's what I did too.
So,
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure, but kind of go to college, probably somewhere regional, local-ish, and engineering.
Nice, man.
There we go.
That's a lofty goal and a lucrative career ahead of you as well. And that's one of those things. You get an engineering degree. I'm going to take 2 years to go play disc golf. And then I'm going to pull that degree out of my sleeve and be like,
seriously.
hey, somebody give me a job because this ain't working out. No, I think disc golf is moving in an upward fashion. That was just a bad joke. But yeah, I think that's going to be, honestly, man, the way things operate in disc golf, I think is going to change drastically in the next 5 years, even more drastically than it has changed in the last 5. You're seeing PDGA rules and tour standards just updating every year now, where it used to be like 3-4 years apart. They would change a rule. Now it's like you get a document and it's 3 pages of red marks where this is everything that's changing. So I think 5-10 years from now, it's going to be a totally different sport than what we're used to. And it'll be interesting to watch. And, as it happens, we'll have you back on the show to talk about it. So, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like, share, subscribe, rate, and review. And we will catch y'all on the flip side.
Yeah. Harper's about to.
Let the bass kick.